All right. Thank you, everyone. We are back. Apologize for that minor inconvenience, but we are back to get things going. We're through public comment and executive session. So, Mr. Curry, I will turn the meeting over to you, sir.
All right. Moving on to monthly presentation. 6.1, we have Dr. Howard Spearman with Rock Valley College in the Advanced Technology Center here to speak.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
I want to thank each of you for allowing us to speak. I actually have two people with me tonight. I have Chris Lewis, who is our Vice President of Workforce Development. And of course, I have my Chairman, Board of Trustees, Jared Funderburg, also in the audience as well. So we just want to show our support. You have been strong partners to Rock Valley College. Boone County has. We wouldn't have been established without the commitment from Boone County as well. So we thank you for the positive history that you have with RVC. I also want to thank Mr. Catlin for the invite and allowing us to speak tonight. We want to really speak to you more about the Advanced Technology Center. I'm going to give you a brief overview, and then I'll have Chris speak to you a little bit more in detail regarding the Advanced Technology Center. What we always like to remind folks regarding Rock Valley College is that we empower students in the community through lifelong learning. Our average age of our students is between 24 and 25 years of age. Majority of our full-time students are probably between 18 and 22. However, our average credit hours taken per semester by any individual student is about nine credit hours per student. So think about that when you think about enrolling on campus, enrolling to college, because most of our students are still working some type of job or attended to their family. So they like to be able to attend school, but also deal with the life concerns or goals as well. And so we just like to be there for them. One of the things that we always like to remember or remind people also is that the last economic impact study we did as a campus, we had about 75% of our graduates were still working in the county or in the district after 3 years. And that's a strong impact to have in the district as well. So we believe that we are your community's college, and we continue to provide a strong place for students to learn. And again, we wouldn't be able to do that without the commitments from Boone as well, Boone County as well. And also when it comes to the Advanced Technology Center, I also need to just give a shout out to and thank District 100, Dr. Wiesman for his outstanding work in partnership and professionalism, as well as Greg Brown, as well as Growth Dimensions. When it comes to workforce development, we support from regional industry to K-12 partnerships. And Growth Dimensions, Greg Brown, Dr. Wiesman really embodies that approach. So when it comes to online, when it comes to onboarding, internal training, when it comes to us being able to support students through credit classes and non-credit classes, running start programs, which we have a strong running start program and dual credit program with Belvedere School District as well as diplomas. We support adult education as well as GEDs. So also, we want to make sure that you understand that we focus on career and occupational pathways. When you see on the left, you see our pipeline. We're really talking about industry partners, local employers, adult education, general and veteran students, as well as K-12 partners. And so wherever the student's coming from, once they're on campus or a part of the campus, we want to make sure that we can help them with credentialing, credit courses, non-credit opportunities, associate's degree. And so the student should have the ability to stop and go as he or she pleases. For us, student success is about the student coming to campus and completing their goals. That could be a 3-credit goal, that could be an associate degree goal, that could be a certificate goal. But we don't make that happen if we don't have our industry partners, like our industry advisory committee, as well as regional workforce partnerships and economic development areas to support us. One of the things we're doing for the Advanced Technology Center is we've been working with industry partners, looking at the curriculum, having them to provide their advice regarding the curriculum so that we can make sure that we have the credibility that when that student finishes the degree, you know who you're hiring and you know why you're hiring them. And so we're not just educators and saying this is the curriculum and we know what's best. We're talking to community leaders, we're talking to industry partners, and they're providing us with quality feedback so we know the type of programs that we need to offer and the type of equipment we need to make sure that our students are learning on. One of the things that we have to stay cognizant of is our regional skill worker deficit. Now, when it comes to the middle skills, we're really looking at a population that may have completed their high school diploma and needs a little education or some skill for a lot of the job opportunities that are presented right now. And so really, when you think about that, that is the community college student. That is the student that has earned the GED or the bachelor, their high school diploma, and then they're able to earn some credit as they go along and continue to work. Sometimes it's the certificate, sometimes it's the non-credit credentialing opportunities, and then other times that student may be working and then coming back just for some skill enhancement and development. And so we have to look at those opportunities. Another thing, we looked at the MC data recently that came out, and we have to really think about, a lot of times we're blaming a lot of this economic downturn on COVID, but really, COVID is just an accelerator of some of the things that we already knew that was going on. It made it happen much faster than it needed to. For instance, we know that baby boomers are ready to retire. And what does that mean? And who replaces them? And so that's why it's important for us to have something like the Advanced Technology Center so that we can help do our part in supporting the region with the skills and the development of those skills for those middle skill opportunities as well. So now here's the Advanced Technology Center. I believe you understand that we're renovating the old Shopco building out on Old Thunder Boulevard, 77,000 square feet. And if you haven't had opportunity to see it yet, it's just amazing to see it when it was Shopco and then see it now and what we're trying to do to be a strong partner in the community as well as the region. And we do believe that this is a regional opportunity for growth and development. And so what I'm going to do next is I am going to hand it over to Chris to speak in more detail about the Advanced Technology Center. Once we're done, if you have any questions, we'll feel free to address those after that.
Thank you, Dr. Spearman. Chairman, commissioners, residents, thank you for having us. As Dr. Spearman alluded to, we're very excited about the opportunity to have the ATC Center, which we call it here in this area. It's very exciting. Dr. Spearman alluded to the fact that our average student is 24. She's really 25 years of age. She's a young lady. More than likely, she is a single parent and she's working full time. So we know with that, we have to be able to provide offerings that allows her and him to be able to on-ramp and off-ramp because we know they are working individuals who are trying to improve their life. What we have right now, we're showing one example, for instance, of one of our programs. One of our programs that we're working on right now is CNC at the ATC. Right now, with our computer numeric control program, we're very excited about it. It's a non-credit program that what we've been doing, many of you probably heard up to this point about TechWorks. We've been doing TechWorks for a long time. And the TechWorks program is a 7-week program which starts off with job readiness. It also entails 90 hours of measurement, material, and safety. And then it goes into 120 hours of CNC mill operation training. In meeting with business and industry across the region, we heard them. And so going into the ATC Center, we're going to revamp that program. That program now is going to be a 16-week comprehensive program that will be broken up into 2 8-week sections. It's going to allow us to be able to, number one, accommodate more individuals, up to 24 once we get into the ATC Center. Everyone will start off on the 90 hours measured material and safety. They will then break up into 2 cohort groups. Half of the class will go into the lathe side, half of the class will go into the mill side. They're now going to be trained 40 hours on the manual machines. So the mill group will be 40 hours on the manual mill, the lathe group 40 hours on the manual lathe. They will then matriculate into about 10 hours on grinding. We learned that we really needed to step up what we were doing in giving exposure to grinding. So they're going to learn about 10 hours of really how to operate a surface and an OD grinder. They're then going to move into 120 hours of CNC mill or CNC lathe. That is going to complete their first 8 weeks. Beginning the next 8 weeks, they're simply going to switch. The mill group is going to go to lathe and lathe is going to go to mill. And they're going to start that process all over again, with the exception they all would have taken the measurement, material, and safety. What we're trying to do, and if we have any employers in here or decision makers in here that are listening, what we're trying to incorporate in the second 8 weeks, because the classroom time would only be 20 hours. What we're trying to incorporate is a 20-hour internship that gives these individuals the on-the-job training that they need to, number one, to build relationships with you, but more importantly, for you to build relationships with them. Because we want to make sure that we retain the talent that we are preparing with the comprehensive training that we will provide in CNC right here in this region. And so we're working on that. We're going to have some additional things we will be discussing, hopefully over the next month, and that we might be able to help with that. But we're going to be having a meeting coming up with our CNC advisor group and others who are interested to try to secure some internship opportunities for our students once they start at the ATC Center right here in Boone County. In addition to that, we're going to talk about the layout. It's really exciting. As you can see in the bottom quadrant of the layout, in the little yellow area, that's our metrology lab. So we'll be doing our measurement, our material safety, inspection. All of that will be going on in that area. In the little peach area, that's our CNC machining. Again, it's going to have manual machines, CNC machines, grinding. But in addition to that, one of the programs we're also going to have for CNC, which will start roughly in October, is what we're looking at. For those individuals who have already come through a program similar to us, or they have been working in business and industry for a couple of years, and they need to learn some advanced training, particularly around programming, operation, and setup. We're going to have an advanced CNC program that'll run 8 weeks. It will probably be an evening class that will be catered to individuals that are working and want to get some advancement in their current employer or elsewhere. That program, again, will be able to take a student. They will come in and they will have to have the capability in the end to go from blueprint to part. And the part would have to pass inspection on a CMM machine. So we're very excited that we're going to be able to offer both an introductory level class, intermediate level class, and an advanced level class, all at the new ATC Center. But also you will see that's what's going to be in the little peach area. In the red area is our new welding area. We're very excited. It's going to give us an opportunity now to really enhance and really grow our welding program. We're very excited because it's also going to include robotic welding. It'll have a cutting section, a fab lab. So the things that we could do now, if you've ever been to our old facility, which we were very proud of, but it was a maze. So now if you had one instructor, they only have 5 or 6 booths per section. In this area, you have 24 booths that an instructor can be in the center area with a bank of computer TVs, and he now, or she, can now be able to instruct all of the students at various levels because they can see them, they have visibility. So we're very excited about what we can do in that new welding area. In the center, I would say that's really our hub. That in the blue area is where it's going to be our mechatronics industrial maintenance program. It's going to be broken up into 6 basically sim labs. In those labs, you're going to have robotics, pneumatics, hydraulics, mechanical systems, electrical motor control systems, and some other things we can do as well. It is going to be flexible so that now we can roll the equipment in, we can roll the equipment out. We can move the equipment into different sim areas if we need to. With that, we currently offer our mechatronics certificate program that's already in place. Right now, for instance, General Mills is already sending people through that 1-year program. In addition to that, We have already, as of May 17th, created a 6-week short certificate training class in industrial maintenance technician. With that class, individuals are getting a fast-paced introduction into really the 7-8 principles of industrial maintenance. Mechanical systems, robotics, pneumatics, hydraulics, electrical control systems. They're also doing shop math. So now they're going to get a fast-paced training that will allow them now to be able to get an entry-level job in these areas. And then we're working with employers as well who are very excited. They're the reason we developed this program, that they can continue their education in our mechatronics program and grow. We have been talking with numerous companies. Our problem right now, General Mills is one, All World is one. We talked to Dairy Farmers of America. They're wanting now to put a lion's share of their employees through this fast-paced training program to ensure they have the skills that are needed and they understand what they're doing. So we're very excited about what we're doing, what we're going to be able to do in that blue area. In addition to that, we actually have about 16 modules that were developed for us around industrial maintenance. We're going to unbundle that so that now for our businesses, we can offer classes in a 1-week or a couple-day variation in an open enrollment format at the ATC Center. Our goal is that basically every year, we will have at least 2 classes that a company can now plan and schedule for their employees, anywhere from lean, quality, OSHA 10, forklift training, robotics, pneumatics, you name it. We're going to be able to offer it now and have it on our calendar so that now you can properly schedule for your employees to get the skill training they need to upskill them to keep you efficient and effective. On the backside, in the purple area, that's our supply chain area, supply chain logistics. We will start off doing forklift training, but then we will grow that program so that we will have a very robust logistics and supply chain program to meet the needs that we see that are growing in this region, in that area. So we're very excited about the growth potential that it also gives us. In the top quadrant, you see the light green area, that is the automotive. So that is also part of the next phase, but we'll be moving our automotive program to the ATC Center as well. And then on the outside perimeter, we will also be bringing our truck driving program to the ATC Center. So we're very excited, again, about all of the things that we will be able to do right here in Boone County with the ATC Center. I will believe that it's going to be one of the cutting edge technology centers, not only in our region, but in our country. And we want to thank you for your support. We want to thank the businesses as well who have been a part of making this happen for us. This has been a long process. Our board has been very committed. Our community has been very committed, and it's been very encouraging to see it come from thought, conversation to reality.
And so, thank you, Chris. And what you need to know also is that this is the beginning. The reason why we want to keep that flex space is because we might have to pivot on a dime. We don't know what we need 5-10 years from now. The industry might drastically change. And so if that's the case, we can use our flex space or provide that flex space to some of the corporations and companies so they can come in and get the training they need so they don't have to move their employee base or lay them off to go do it. So that's the goal here, that we'll be able to support and be there for the region. We just want you to know that folks have asked us about transportation. We are trying to help address it, but it's more of a supplemental piece. We're looking at providing some transportation, additional transportation between campuses, starting about 7:30 in the morning, going to about 9:30 at night, so they can hit at least 3 campuses, Advanced Technology Center, Moultrie Road, or the main campus, as well as downtown. We are considering Stenstrom right now as a 4th option, but the goal here is that students will have access. So whether they're in Winnebago County or in Boone County, they have access and they don't have to feel like they're stranded on one place or another. And the goal here is that we can continue to support students this way, but we also want to always ask the combination of counties to consider and continue to look at transportation between the region as a priority, especially when it comes to education and access. So I know we were given about 10 minutes. I don't know how many minutes we went over on that 10 minutes, Mr. Callen, but at this point in time, if there's any questions, we'd love to address them at this time.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you. First off, before I forget, I want to say a public thank you to you, your entire staffs, and everything for making this investment in Boone County. I know it was not necessarily a popular decision west of here, and many people took some flack for moving that. But we are excited beyond all belief that you've chosen Boone County to put this facility, the ATC. We think it's going to be an amazing facility for the entire region, and that's how we've really looked at it all along. Is that it's a regional investment, and we're just excited to have you here and doing this, and it's great to see it coming along. On that facility, just a couple of quick things I noticed. It sounded like in your CNC classes and things that you're kind of going back to the basics. You're teaching, hands-on lathe machines and milling machines and things like that. Is that just so that they get familiar how it used to be done versus doing it all computerized now, or?
Well, we have a myriad of businesses that are here in the region. We have, of course, the big companies like Collins and Woodward, who will let you believe that everything is automated and that's the wave of the future. But the reality is there are more small shops here that are using more manual machines than are using CNCs. So when we actually met with the businesses in the region and got that feedback, we quickly understood that we had to, number one, give some more exposure to the manual machines, because we want to make sure when someone leaves our program, they could go anywhere and they know that they are well-rounded and they can handle everything from the beginning to the end.
Awesome. That's awesome. I think that's definitely lost skills that people don't learn anymore. So that's awesome. And then just seeing that, I know there's the partnerships with NIU with engineering degrees and things like that you can partner with them through that. Is that something you'll put engineering students through these kind of programs also, just out of curiosity?
We have, you're referring to Engineering Our Future. And they will have an opportunity if they want to, but we're really looking more at mechatronics, and it's a different type of student that's interested in mechatronics. But that student that's interested in mechatronics, once they have earned their certificate 1 and 2, remember, we're thinking about stackable, on-ramping them, then they may work, and then they'll come back. So then if they were interested, they would be that type of student that next option would be the engineering option for them on campus.
Super. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Carlisle?
I'm in the aviation business, and I think this. I've been here for a long time. It's my hometown, and we've been thinking about this for a long time. But I can see where you can pinpoint a student to a certain point, but you can level them up over to the campus over at Rock Valley, and we can work together with our facility next door. And I think that is being already worked, I thought, to bring those students, if they do the technology center, that's a great start. And sometimes they get going and they get hooked on it, and then they go up to the next level, which would be an A&P mechanic. And we have programs for that, and we want to work towards that. And if you haven't talked to Greg Dillinger or some of the people that we have there, can actually give you that information. And if you need information, I'm more than happy to give you names, numbers, and any type of leads that you need to work those type of things. More than happy to help you.
We've been having ongoing conversations actually with Troy Primers, is a good friend, but I've been meeting with Troy, and we've been meeting with Ryan Gorson every month for probably 8 months. Matter of fact, we have a meeting coming up with the local team, because we're realizing that we can get a lot more accomplished with the local team than we can with the corporate team. So we have a meeting that we're scheduled, I think it's June 7th, June 10th, where we're actually going to bring the local team in with our team. What we realize is that for far too long, we have both organizations, RVC and AAR, who basically are across the parkland from each other, but there's no engagement from the local group. So what we're trying to do is bring all the local players together, because I know there are a lot of new people that are now out at AAR that are supporting everything that's going on. We want to make sure that we establish a relationship so that we now can have them walking across the parking lot, and we can have those students now that are not only getting the training through us, but also being able to get the hands-on experience at AAR, as well as building a relationship that's lasting, that's meaningful for both sides.
Yeah, and I'm seeing also a feed system out of the technology center up to that, which is something we'd like to see.
That's one of the things, well, you're nailing, you're right on par with that, because one of the things we're looking at doing, next step is, once we have our programs established, or the first set of programs, we still want to look at articulation or articulated credit or agreements. So many times when students take non-credit classes, then, they go to work and then they may want to come to RVC to take the next set of classes, but it may be on the credit side. Right now, with some of it, the way it's set up, you start over from the beginning. But the question becomes, well, why do I need to start over when I have this skill set that I can probably teach some of the students in the class the skill set, right? So what we're looking at is, once we have this established, we want to look at credit for prior learning opportunities and make sure that we can develop some type of assessment to, for instance, foreign language. If you take foreign language in high school, or you're competent in another language and we offer that opportunity, you can go to our testing center and test out and get up to 14 credits of foreign language. But why can't we do that with other opportunities? And so the next step is to look at other opportunities for credit for prior learning. And so that students, when they stop and come back, they don't feel like they're starting over. All right, so you're right on par with that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Ready?
Yeah, so another cool thing about all this is that a lot of these trades, they're really hard to automate. Really hard to automate. So it couldn't come in a better time, especially with all the layoffs that are coming from Chrysler. And I was actually one of those people that actually had to drive all the way to Rockford to get an associate's degree. So I'm very excited just to see that a lot of our kids here are going to get that opportunity. So yeah, definitely.
Thank you for sharing.
Any other questions in the boardroom? Thank you, gentlemen.
Before we leave, I know Dr. Spearman would be upset if I didn't say this. It is still a building that we're almost through with, and it has a lot of room for naming rights if there's anybody who would like to. You want your name in perpetuity on the building, so please call one of us. We'd love to talk to you.
Have my card. Thank you.
All right, moving right along. 6.2, public safety. The Boone County Sheriff is not present tonight, but he has a report for us to read. On our own time here. 6.3, Boone County Highway Engineer, Justin.
I've got a report on there too, so you can feel free to ask any questions on that. By the way, the ATC thing is very exciting, and that's great for the community. I was extremely impressed. But yeah, so we're starting our summer maintenance program, and we actually just started it this morning. So we're actually active in that, and so you'll see over the next couple of weeks, you'll see a lot of activity along North Boone School, Woodstock, and Russellville roads. So all that is ongoing. If there's any questions, I did include a map. There's some additional, we got some low prices. So we did expand based on some available budgets. We expanded some of our routes that we're working on, but that a map is available.
Any questions? Chairman Johnson.
Just one more thing, just since the ATC was in Rock Valley was right up here. Justin, if you could just touch on a little bit what you're working on to help put up a bus shelter out there.
Yeah, we're working, county and the Belvedere Public Works are working together. We're going to hopefully break ground. We're just working out some of the finer details of that. Actually, Manchester Township Commissioners, concrete finisher. So we're gathering all sorts of different in-house support to do that bus shelter at a very low cost and get it done. And if there's other things that are needed to support ATC, we'd be happy to provide those.
Any other questions? I had a question, Justin. I know that due to the closed hot mix plant on Ibsen, It's kind of delayed a couple of the programs. You and I talked this week about that. Is there any estimation as to when that's going to open, or are we going to start pulling from a couple of the other different quarries?
Yeah, good question. We actually already started pulling from some of the other plants. There's a lot of rumors on the street on what's causing that. Some of the rumors, if are true, that plant could be closed for most of the summer. Our Boone County's contractual work that's being done both by the county and the townships will not be impacted by that plant. So the low bidders on all those are not associated with that plant. So that's a good thing. However, that plant does impact a lot of the in-house work that we were planning on doing. Belvedere Township has a paver that they've been utilizing and helping multiple agencies and doing a lot of paving on their within their roadway system. Pulling out of that plant within their own township is very beneficial. So, and they did bid, that plant did bid our material bid at a very low cost. We look forward to that opening, but there's like I say, there's a lot of potential that may not be open this summer.
Thank you. Any other questions for Justin in the boardroom? Thank you, Justin. Moving along to 7, quarterly department presentations. Assessments. Is Jessica on the phone?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. The assessment office right now is, because of the timing of the tax bills, the deadline for final payment was the 1st. So there's been a large amount of traffic in the office where we're fielding a lot of questions about people who had concerns about their assessments or their exemptions. And because once the tax bills come, that changes the dynamic of that conversation. We've been having some conversations about strategies for doing more public outreach at earlier points in the year. So when we're traditionally, we would partner with the treasurer's office at the time when assessment appeals can be filed, we do those tax clinics. We're looking at the possibility of doing some outreach potentially at different points earlier in the year to encourage people to file for their exemptions in a timely fashion and look at their assessments and look at their tax bills and recognize their role in the tax cycle. Individual taxpayers, kind of having a greater understanding of their role in the process, so that we have less conversations when the tax bills come out and the bills need to be paid. The software project is moving forward, and we've had some encouraging news about that data transfer is expected to go well. Other than that, it is very quiet. And I would be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any at this time.
Thank you, Jessica. Any questions for Jessica in the boardroom? There are no questions, Jessica. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
7.2, County Clerk and Recorder. Julie?
Good evening. You'll notice I put quite a bit of information on board docs for you this time in different sections. Under the County Clerk and Recorder, there was a brief snippet about what is going on in my office. You'll see the yearbook start to be available sometime in about the middle of July. We've had 3 elections since the last yearbook was put out, so we do have changes that will be taking place. So you'll want to make sure you grab one of those as soon as we have those out in July. This weekend was a huge legislative weekend for the County Clerk and Recorders, for elections. Just to give you a snippet, I did post the bill. I'm so sorry. I kind of thought that if I read through it a couple of times that maybe you would want to read 116 pages of legislative stuff, but this is what I've kind of highlighted for you. There are going to be some cybersecurity changes, fairly minor considering that the Boone County already participates in the cybersecurity program through the state. They do want us to change our email, potentially our website to a .gov address. There'll be more frequent scanning. I have sent this on to Joel with IT just to kind of take a look at things, but there are several things that we already do. So I don't think that's going to be a huge burden on the county for us to do that. The general election primary, if you have probably already have heard, has been moved to June 28th of 2022, pushing it back from March 15th. Petitions you'll begin to circulate not until January 13th. So for all of you board members will be up for election. Myself, the treasurer, and the sheriff also will be up for election for the county races. So January 13th is when you'll be able to start to do that. I have an idea of signatures that we're going to need, county-wide offices. So for myself and whoever's running for treasurer, whoever's running for clerk, sheriff will have 102 signatures to collect. Most county board members for the districts will be 25. Whether you're running as a Republican or a Democrat. I believe in District 2, if you're running as a Republican, it'll be 26 signatures. So not a not a huge burden for you to collect in the middle of winter, I think. March 7th through the 14th is when you will be filing in my office that you are wanting to run for office. March 30th through June 23rd, you'll be able to request vote by mail. Early voting ballots will begin, or early voting and vote by mail ballots will begin on May 19th of 2022. One thing about this legislation I thought was interesting that opens the door is for vote centers. This is the first piece of legislation that actually covers vote centers. That is meaning the election authority will establish either in the election authority office or in a location within the largest municipality in a county, location on election day for somebody to go and vote regardless of where they are registered at. So somebody in Poplar Grove could come down and if we chose a location in Belvedere, which would be the largest municipality, anybody can come and vote there on that day. Don't ask me a lot of questions about that quite yet because we haven't received a lot of direction yet from the state board, but this has been coming. And that's why I put on there, this is the open door. I believe in the next 3-4 years that this is going to be something that they are going to focus quite a bit on. At this point in time, they did that for this last November. They just didn't call it a voting center. They required all the election authorities to have a location within the election authority building or their early voting building to actually have that same thing on election day. So in 2020, in the general election, we could not turn away somebody who came into our office to vote if they were registered somewhere else. So please watch for that. That's going to become, I believe, in the next few years, a little bit more focus on those. Curbside voting, they did eliminate the stipulation for contacting the election authority ahead of time. Curbside voting is for anybody who is unable to come in, say, for example, if they were just released from the hospital, they're not able to come in the door for voting, then 2 judges would go out to their location. They have to park within 50 feet of the doorway, and we would actually then bring their ballot to them. They would sign the application, bring the ballot. They just removed that stipulation. They have to contact us ahead of time. And anybody can do that now through the early voting session. And in Boone County, we've already been doing that. If there was somebody, that came to the door, they usually would send in a spouse or a child, or somebody would come in and say, hey, my mom can't get out of the car. Can you bring her ballot? We bring the application to them, they sign it, we go back in, we print their ballot, we bring that out, give them time to vote the ballot and bring that in ourselves. So that, again, is not a huge stretch or anything new other than just removing that stipulation. They have now put in language about a permanent vote by mail list. What this means is that this next year before the primary, the election authorities will be required to send out a notice, much like the application that we were required to send to every registered voter in the county back last fall. We will be required to send this application out to every registered voter, giving them the option to sign up for a permanent vote by mail list. If they are on that list, they will receive a ballot for every election without having to contact us first. Once they do that, the only way to come off that list is if we have received notice that they have moved out of the county, or they've called us to request being removed from the list, somebody passes away, any reason for us to eliminate the registration. I do not know exactly what funding we're going to receive. We did receive some funding last year that helped us cover that mailing. I'm hoping that they're going to come up with something like that. Otherwise, that's going to be a cost to us. Obviously, then once after that, once we've sent that initial notice out, anytime that somebody requests a vote by mail application, on this application, it will ask them to mark off if they would like it just for this election or if they want to be added to the permanent list. I'm sure I'm going to have questions. The other part of the permanent vote by mail list, for the November election this last year, we were required to have a website, a web address where somebody can go to that website and request a vote by mail ballot electronically. We will be required to do that as well again. I thought this one was very interesting. They included a section called legislative findings, and it is lawful in a county of less than 100,000 in population for the township supervisor or a township trustee to also serve as a county board member. I know Tricia, I'm sure, is asked that often. I am asked that often, and that was actually in there as legislative findings. Reapportionment changes. I'll give you a quick few updates, and then we will be discussing this later in the evening. Reapportionment changes, county boards will have until December 31st. The data from the American Community Survey, 5-year data, may now be used as a reasonable method. Reapportionment decisions that must be made include size of county board members elected at large, or if you want to continue by districts, county board chairman elected by voters or by board members. If elected by voters of the county, the chairman is then not counted as a member of the board for the limitations on size of the board. And then, of course, the mapping of the districts. And then finally, election day is going to be a holiday, and no government offices are to be open except for the election authority, and schools will also be closed for that day.
Thank you. Any questions for Julie in the boardroom?
Good luck.
Good luck. Yeah.
Good luck, yes.
Thank you very much, Julie.
Yes.
Okay. All right. The coroner is not on. 7.4 health. Amanda, are you on the phone?
Hi, Ryan. Good evening. Yes, I'm here.
Good evening. The floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Amanda Mail here with the Boone County Health Department. Just going to touch on a couple of our domain highlights. And our full Board of Health packet was included on board docs, as it is every month, for you all to read through and let me know if you have any questions. So under domain 1, monitor health, I just want to bring to the board's attention that we have identified 19 variant cases of COVID-19 to date as of the printing of this packet at the end, 5/25/21. So we have identified the United Kingdom variant, the Brazilian variant, and the California variant in Boone County. We continue to work pretty closely with the state health department. Most counties across the state have had at least 1 or 2 variants identified within their county. So keeping an eye on that and working a little bit with our contact tracing team to identify any new signs and symptoms that are developing in patients with a variant strain, and then also contact tracing within their family units in terms of transmissibility and whether it's more transmissible one variant versus another. So we're conducting a pilot project with the state as our other counties to try to determine any difference in transmissibility. Just moving quickly to domain 2, I would mention that in addition to all of the COVID-19 activities that our department continues to be engaged in, now going on 18 plus months, we did respond to an outbreak of norovirus in our community this past month. We are wrapping up those investigations and actually able to close that outbreak out. We were able to respond pretty quickly and work with the institution that it affected to get everyone who needed care, the care that they needed, and make sure that all individuals were safe and that transmission wasn't continuing within households outside of the institution. So that was a successful case closure, and everyone is safe at this point. Just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. I'm going to move to domain 3 briefly and mention that we are continuing to track the calls that come through on our COVID-19 line and also through our email for our COVID-19 information email. And in the month of April, there were 4,682 calls that were placed between April 1st and April 30th, which is an exceedingly large call volume for our department. We continue to get hundreds of calls a day, sometimes depending on what people have questions about. Primarily, people are calling with questions about testing site information and vaccine information, but we do get questions from businesses about business guidance, reopening, and then the social distancing and the masking. We got 200 emails just on our COVID-19 email in the month of April. We're going to stay on that page 6, and move to domain 4. I do have a staff member with me who is Jessica Perillo. She is our new program manager for both the CORE and the SORT grant, so our 2 Department of Justice grants. She is just going to briefly mention some data points for a year in review, since we have completed as of June 1st, 1 full year of our first Department of Justice grant being operationalized. So with both of the grants, we go through a 9-month planning period that starts October 1st when we're awarded the grant and ends June 1st. So if the board remembers back to this time last year, we went live with our CORE grant, the first of the 2 Department of Justice grants in June of 2020. So we've been running that program for a full year. Jessica has been with us since the middle of April and has hit the ground running. She's been helping to get our SORT grant off the ground, which went live this past Tuesday. And I'm going to turn it over to her to just very briefly mention some data points for a year in review of the CORE program. Jessica?
Yes, hi. Thank you for letting me speak. So my name is Jessica Perillo. I'm the new program manager. I was a member of the task force previously as Rosecrans Leadership. I was there for about 6 years as a substance abuse coordinator for Boone, Winnebago, and Stevenson counties. I do have a background in forensic psychology, and so I'm very excited to be here and help with these programs. Like Amanda said, our CORE program, our Comprehensive Opioid Abuse Reduction Program, has been running and gathering referrals for about a year. So just some quick data points about that. We're finding that about 65% of our referrals are Boone County residents. 15% are from the surrounding area. Our primary drug that we're working with is opioids. A lot of what we're seeing is really heroin and fentanyl. So that is primarily what our referrals are using. And our primary referral source, a lot of the biggest place where our clients are coming to us from is through law enforcement. So through their first law enforcement contacts, such as overdoses and similar events, they are then getting referred to our program for follow-up. So we're very excited about that. In 2020, we were averaging about 15 referrals a month. And already in 2021, we're averaging about 24 referrals a month. So we are ramping up quite nicely. We're really excited to also get SORT on the ground and really just build our team. The data is really showing us that we are hitting the target population that we want to hit, and we are helping those that the grant was built for. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Jessica. I'm just going to make a few more comments and then happy Ryan to open it up for questions. Under domain 5, I would just highlight the fact that the state of Illinois Department of Public Health did release their version 8.0 of their mass vaccination plan. As we know, all things COVID change rapidly. So we've been through eight plus versions now of the plan. The biggest changes have been positive changes, and that includes the ability now to vaccinate individuals who are 12 years of age and over against COVID-19, and some changes in the refrigeration time periods for the Pfizer vaccine. So both the change to 12 and up and the change in refrigeration relaxed guidelines have allowed us to do additional vaccination clinics and to hold vaccine longer in our office, which allows us to vaccinate more of our adolescent population. We did host a clinic with District 100 and 200 back on May 19th, targeting our 12 to 18-year-olds and their parents and adult family members. And during that day-long clinic, we did administer 472 doses. Next week, we'll be doing the follow-up second dose appointments for those children and their parents and adult family members. The other thing I wanted to mention before wrapping up is when we prepare for emergencies such as a pandemic or a natural disaster or other issues that public health responds to in emergency capabilities, we prepare using 15 capabilities through our public health emergency preparedness program. And one of those capabilities is mobilizing and training volunteers on the ground level to assist with emergency response. So I did want to let the board know that we have been tracking the number of volunteer hours that have gone into running our mass vaccination clinics. I know many of you attended a clinic yourself, brought family members, participated, some of you volunteered. And I'm just very happy to say that we've been tracking that since the beginning, and we have 2,620 plus volunteer hours that have gone into just on the ground vaccination clinic running. And that doesn't count all of the staff time, obviously, that has been put into those efforts. So that goes from December through until this past reporting month to our Board of Health. And with that, Ryan, I'll go ahead and wrap up and I can take any questions.
Thank you, Amanda. Any questions in the boardroom for Amanda? You got off easy, Amanda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is section 8, written monthly department reports. Anybody have anything? Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped Rick, I'm sorry. 7.5, animal services. You are important, I'm sorry.
Good evening. In the second quarter of this fiscal year, animal services took in $76,000, and our non-personnel expenditures were $16,200, and the personnel expenditures, wages and benefits were $22,000, leaving a gross profit of approximately $37,700. We did have $775 of donations, which is not included in that. Donations are just trickling in these days. I suspect it's probably because a lot of people out there in the community are struggling due to the ongoing pandemic, but we do have a few people who have been strong and ongoing donors. We've had one couple that's made $250 donations multiple times over the last 6 months, and we're very thankful for them. They've also sponsored an adoption.
Rick, could I get you to talk into the microphone there?
Sorry.
That way they can hear you back there.
Sorry. The same couple has also sponsored a adoption.
Is that any better back there? No, you're gonna have to hold that mic right up to you. Yeah. Talk right into the center of it.
Anyway, the Matthews family has sponsored the adoption fee for a cat, for one half of a pair of cats that we've had at our shelter for probably 3 months. and somebody else sponsored the other half. So we're appreciative of them. During the quarter, our officers, myself and Lisa, and then most recently our part-time officer, have done 191 calls for service. The calls do continue to rise week over week with the arrival of the warmer temperatures, and they will continue to climb throughout the rest of the summer. We did hire a part-time officer back in April. Lisa and I shared the responsibilities of training him, and I put him through a 1-week practical exercise where he showed me that he does have the ability to go out and perform the functions of an animal control officer on his own. And I have the utmost confidence in his ability to perform the job. During the second quarter, we took in 88 animals and we returned 51 of them to their owners. So we're very excited about that. It's more than half of the animals that we brought in are going back home. And we did 11 adoptions also. And just so you're aware, those animals that weren't returned to the owners are adopted out. Many of them include wildlife that was injured or something like that that had to be humanely euthanized. So I had mentioned previously the letter campaign that we had initiated several months ago, and Kelly has been running across the front desk where she sends out a reminder letter to animal owners that have not bought their rabies licenses once they get their animals vaccinated. And we've had a very strong influx of revenue and direct response to those letters. In just 1 month in May, she started keeping track of the revenue that coming in directly correlated to letters, and it was over $500 just in response to those letters. So 500 postage stamps cost $275. So, in just 1 month, we've more than doubled that back. So something that I've been working on over the last few months is going over things that we're paying for month over month and where we can save some money, looking at some leased equipment and things like that, and seeing whether this stuff makes sense to keep leasing it or buy our own versions. And so I've ended a lease of a water cooler. That the one that I bought will pay for itself 8 months from now. I've also terminated our contract with Cintas. We were paying them $51 twice a month for rug service. That was a service agreement that existed when I took place. I questioned it. I was initially told by Cintas management there was a contract, and I questioned it. Does that still apply? Because I didn't sign it. It took 3 or 4 months to decide that we couldn't be held liable for something that somebody else signed. So I ended it and ordered our own rugs earlier this week. They'll pay for themselves after about 5 months. And we're already taking care of them anyway. The ladies vacuum the rugs daily, so it didn't really make any sense to keep leasing them. Our Comcast bill was approximately $400 a month for the last several months. I was able to chop that bill in half by simply returning some of their equipment to them and having IT replace things like Wi-Fi router and the cable modem, buying them. They'll pay for themselves, roughly about 6 months or so from now. And also got our monthly bill cut in half through simply entering into a new service agreement. So we're going from $400 down to a little less than $200 a month. So I'm really excited about that. That'll save our organization and the county a lot of money. And I guess the last thing before I turn this over to questions from the board, I wanted to let everybody know I will be out of the office beginning tomorrow and returning on the 30th for military duty, going to the Army Leadership course in Virginia. If anybody needs to get a hold of me, I'll be available by email. I'm going to try to keep in communication, keep up with things as best as possible. Mr. Catlin, Mr. Street will be able to get a hold of me quickly if need be. And I've worked with my staff in training them to do a lot of the stuff that I do day to day so that they can do it when I'm not there. And I just wanted all of you to know that I have the utmost confidence in their ability to perform all of those things that they're taking over while I'm gone and continue to do their day-to-day jobs while I'm not there. They were all chosen for a reason. They all came with skills that they brought with them to the job, and they've continued to learn all along the way. So with all that, is there any questions?
Any questions for Rick in the boardroom? Good luck on your exercise.
Thanks, sir.
Number 8, written monthly departmental reports and updates. Do we have anything? See nothing. 9.1, I'd like a motion to approve claims with the understanding that Carl Johnson abstains from voting on all claims presented by William Charles, and Bill Robertson abstains from voting on all claims presented by B. Robertson Lock Service.
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Jeff Carlisle, seconded by Jonathan Van Laar. Comments? Roll call?
Carl Johnson, yes. Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Bacher.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Brian Curry.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Sherry Bartel.
Yes.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Motion carries.
9.2, I need a motion to move SUP-18-2021 Ojeda special use forward to the county board for approval.
So moved.
Motion made by Chairman Johnson, seconded by Jonathan Van Laar. Izzy?
Thank you. All right. The site is located at 9194 Poplar Grove Road in south central Boone County in Belvedere Township. The site is approximately 5 acres. There is a single-family dwelling on the site as well as other accessory agricultural structures, including some silos. The site is zoned A1 Agricultural Preservation District. A1 district is intended for a variety of agricultural uses. However, it does allow for a variety of special uses. The applicant is seeking a special use permit for a small rural business as a seasonal outdoor event space, as well as utilizing an existing structure for an indoor space for gatherings like an assembly hall. As you can see from the site plan, there is the open space in the center, as well as an existing structure to the north of that, where the inside activities would take place, as well as parking, which will take place in the north there of the property, as well as on one of the sides, all contained within the site. Here are some photographs that I was able to take while I was there. As you can see, there is a bit of a circle drive there in the front. The open space, is the space that's surrounded by the white fence there. And the proposed gathering space would be the structure that is directly in front of that, actually towards the rear. Okay, I wanted to take a look at the surrounding areas like we always do. The site there is at the center, and I wanted to point out that the closest residential use is over 700 feet away, and the closest residential subdivision is over 1,500 feet away. There is also over 1,500 feet between the subject property and the intersection at Poplar Grove Road and Squaw Prairie Road. As you can see, the Boone County Fairgrounds is located 2.5 miles west of the property, and US 20 is located 1.3 miles south of the subject property. When I look at the zoning ordinance, small rural business and assembly hall are both considered as special uses in the A1 Agricultural Preservation District. Small rural business is defined as a business that is subordinate to a principal use. Typically, it's for a small scale commercial endeavor. It requires, again, for it to be subordinate. It does provide an attraction or a service and it employs a minimal amount of people outside of the ownership. The assembly hall is just that, a gathering space, and both, again, requiring a special permit. There were reviewing agencies that gave comment. Building and zoning did state that building permits will be required for any renovations of any existing structures or to add any new structures, and a commercial building codes will apply. I wanted to bring this up because it came up at Planning Commission as well as the Zoning Board of Appeals. In 2019, a similar project at 5249 Stone Quarry Road in Flora Township went through the special use process for this exact part, a small rural business for an outdoor event space. This was approved, and a little bit of a similar location in that it was directly adjacent to two residential uses over 1,400 feet from the residential subdivision there to the northeast, as well as 1,500 feet from that intersection. When I looked at the comprehensive plan, the future intended use is residential. Residential is intended primarily for residential uses, and while residential uses do exist in the surrounding area, the primary use currently is A1 Agricultural Preservation District, and directly west, again, we see the Boone County Fairgrounds, and south, the Business Route 20. So this area could be looked at more of a buffer between the more intense uses and then the residential subdivisions. Planning Commission thought that this would be a good opportunity to review this area. And I'll show you what I'm talking about right here. So the subject property is in the center there in the black star. As you can see towards the east, there's agricultural, there's a big greenway space, and then you have residential, and then you have institutional and commercial. To the south is the city of Belvedere with some rural holding and residential districts. And of course, to the north, we have some more agricultural area as well as the residential subdivision. So this area would match up possibly more to stay agriculture or to be looked at more of a mixed use space just because of the location. So that's what we will be reviewing. Further looking into the comprehensive plan, chapter 7, economic development, goal 7.1, objective C, promote small business ventures and a culture of entrepreneurship would be a goal that could be met if the special use permit is approved. Planning Commission did vote in favor 3-0 on May 18th. When I looked at the findings of fact, I found that the use would incorporate existing infrastructure and would take into account existing structures and features of the A1 property or A1 zoning district. The proposed use is not anticipated to have negative effects as there are conditions in place that should mitigate any of the concerns. Parking has been a concern, and that is why a condition is in place that would require the applicant to submit a parking site plan to our office for review, and we'll get into that in a little bit. The proposed use should not produce any negative effects to the surrounding development, as the use again would be contained completely within the site. Conditions are in place, and currently it is surrounded by all open ag space. The use is required to conform to the applicable regulations in the A1 agricultural district. And again, commercial building codes would apply for any renovations or any new structures. The proposed use and structures would be subject to review by appropriate departments and will be required to follow conditions if approved. The proposed use again does take into account the A1 district purpose by using existing infrastructure and utilizing open land on the property. The Zoning Board of Appeals did not approve the findings of fact 0-3, and they did not recommend in favor of this project 0-3 as well. I did want to give a quick ZBA summary. Public comment session was opened. 5 members of the public did make public comment. I received 1 mailed letter, and I received a phone call June 2nd. Kevin, if you would click on the link that I have there, summary memo. I just want to go through that briefly.
Oops.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you. So at the ZBA meeting, we had Mr. Al Heiser from Doris Court, who had some concerns about noise. He was concerned that the applicant did not live at the residence. He was concerned about the Poplar Grove Road and Squaw Prairie Road intersection, which is very dangerous. And he was concerned about another property on Wyman School Road that could be a zoning violation. He was concerned that this could turn into that. Toria Funderburg on Somerset Drive did have questions about the special use and what it all entailed. She was concerned about noise, parking, traffic control, lighting, and sanitation, how many people were going to be there, and again, the noise and the quietness of the neighborhood. John Christopherson on Squaw Prairie Road was concerned about guns and bullets. He is concerned about alcohol use. He would actually like activities to be cut off by 10. Again, the neighborhood is quiet, and he would like to keep it that way. If you could scroll down, please. Thank you. He was concerned about the activities that would take place and again, accidents at the intersection. Beth Turek on Henninger Drive have some concerns about noise. There was some concerns about this becoming a rodeo, the culture and vision of the county. She's concerned that perhaps there won't be the renovations that are necessary to bring up the structures up to commercial code. Pamela Gustafson at Poplar Grove Road is concerned about the intersection safety. More people could cause more problems. Noise, again, wanting that peaceful and quiet area. The letter that was mailed to me is also enclosed, but I'll briefly go over the points. So it was noise, parking and traffic, alcohol use, and again, the rodeos. The phone call that I received, Nyla Katie called Boone County Planning Department on June 2nd, approximately 3:15. She wanted to comment on the case. She did not know how to use email, and she resides at 9420 Poplar Grove Road. She is against the special use. The neighborhood is nice and quiet. She would like to keep it that way. She is 85 years old and she moved into the county for these reasons, and she did not want it to change. If this becomes a dance hall, it could cause some problems. The concerns from ZBA, from the members of ZBA, Mr. Schlichting was concerned about opening a party venue in the middle of agricultural land, and he did not think the site was ready for this type of business. Ms. Crum stated that the property is set up for livestock and they would have to take a lot of it down to turn it into what they're trying to do. The outdoor space looks too small for the initial estimate of 100 people. They are not ready to state what they're doing on the property, and again, noise. Mr. Fitter was concerned about the structures and the buildings not being ready, and concerned about the location as well, being so close to that intersection on Poplar Grove Road. So again, ZBA voted not in favor of the findings 0 to 3 and not in favor of the special use 0 to 3. If you could go back to the presentation. Thank you. So staff is recommending that committee of the whole recommend in favor of the special use permit with the following conditions. A parking lot site plan should be provided and reviewed by the planning department. And what this will entail is a plan that will lay out exactly where the parking will be, how many parking will be available. This has to match the space that's provided for these types of events, as well as the number of people, again, that will be attending. This could potentially trigger improvements that are needed in order to accommodate that many people coming in and out. It just really depends on that plan. Any outdoor lighting should be directed down and away from adjacent properties and roadways. Signage shall be subject to the provisions of the code. Again, building permits should be obtained for any renovations or new structures, and the commercial building code will apply. And of course, compliance will with all other applicable local and state laws, including but not limited to the noise ordinance passed by the Boone County Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Izzy. Questions in the courtroom or in the boardroom? Watching too many investigative discovery shows. Mr. Carlisle.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to agree with the CBA group of not voting for this. Not other than nothing is really put together. There's nothing really for us to look at. It's in the wrong spot. There's nothing about ADA compliance. There's nothing about sewer and septic solutions for these types. It's too big of an area. Actually, it doesn't have. I've been out there. I tried to buy that property, and it wasn't conducive to anything except for maybe a small farm. I will not be in favor of this program.
Okay, I would like to speak to that if possible. So the previous project that I mentioned, similar 5-acre parcel, similar type of situation. We don't request all those things up front. Like the parking lot site plan, we will review that after. But these, this special use is for a subordinate in size use. It's not going to be an event venue like you would find like a golf course or something like that. It's a smaller scale event space. And I just want to be clear that these types of uses have been approved by county board before with the same conditions that you see before you today.
Chairman Carla, or Chairman, geez, I'm all over the place today. Chairman Johnson.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Wow, I had a turn.
Izzy, a couple of questions. This is, they're wanting this as an outdoor venue, an indoor venue, both?
That's right.
So the outdoor venue, is it just going to be in that corral area? So it's a pretty small area. How many people are they talking about for an outdoor venue?
That's something that, that I spoke with the applicant about, and that's something that we would work with to create that site plan to ensure the space that's there. It's quite a small space, as you mentioned. So that still has to match with the parking available. So let's say the parking is greater than what they can fit in there, that's great, but it can't be less than what they need. So that's something that the applicant will have to produce with the site plan.
Okay. And the indoor venue, I mean, same thing. I guess I'm concerned kind of what Mr. Carlisle has here. As I recall, projects like this that we've had in the past, we've had, while the site necessarily hasn't been ready, we've had more information and more details on exactly what they're planning to do, what kinds of limits, what kinds of things like that. So I'm a little concerned that, you know, how many people are we talking about for an outdoor event? How many for an indoor event? Are most events going to be indoor? So I've got some reservations about just giving an approval, and I do that because I've seen this board get burned many times by giving an approval that everything seems to be in good faith and nothing, taking nothing from this applicant at all. I don't know them. I'm sure they're honest and they want to do the best they can. But we've been stuck many, many times. So all we have is past precedents to look at. So I'm a little concerned about that, not having some of those details. And I don't know if the applicant's here and they want to speak to any of that.
The applicant is here if you have questions for him.
If, I guess, is the applicant, can the applicant come up? I'd be happy to ask them some questions.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Jose Ojeda. I live in 9194 Poplar Grove Road.
Okay, super. What, do you have an idea how many people you're looking to have at an event?
No, I don't have an idea, not yet, because I don't know if people is gonna come in or not.
Do you know what kind of events you're looking to have?
Maybe birthdays or family parties, something like that, weddings, but I don't want to have too many people in there because I know the space is small.
And would that be the same for the indoor venue also? So you're talking the outdoor venue, you want a fairly small group, but indoor venue also, same thing?
Yeah, when there is raining, I'm gonna try to put people inside to have a party inside, but if there is no rain, maybe outside.
Are you thinking times of the year that you want to do this? Every weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 12 months a year? I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out a business plan as to what you're considering to do if we're going to approve something. So I hope my colleagues can understand. I feel like we're being asked to approve something that we don't really know exactly what you're trying to do, other than you just want to have have a big party center.
Yeah, maybe one time in a month, party, birthday or wedding, something like that. If money comes to me, I help the fire department. I don't know. We need to see that first.
Steve Schubacher?
Yeah, I feel even if we had all the information, the location is just not conducive to the community, and I'm not in favor of it. Like I said, even if in terms of state had all that information in front of us, I would still vote no because of the location, being that close to the subdivision, worrying about the roads, stuff like that, and I just cannot support this.
Freddie?
Does the applicant meet any of the requirements for the special use?
So when we go through the special use process, I review the findings of fact, which ZBA then reviews. So I found that the project met the findings of fact, but the zoning board of appeals did not agree with me. So, yeah.
Okay.
Dave Wiltsey?
Looking at the application on page 2, it says, describe the proposed use of the subject property in detail, and it simply says event space. Elsewhere in the document, it talks about weddings, birthdays, and parties. I assume that the staff has put that in there with further conversation with the gentleman. But I don't find event space adequate to make me comfortable at this time in supporting this, because it's just not detailed enough, and detail is exactly what's required in the application. Let me ask a couple. It's kind of backwards to me to talk about a plan and then get a site plan for parking. Where did the 100 people come from? I don't see it anywhere in the applicant's description.
Nope.
And yet it comes up in the staff report.
Yeah, that was the initial discussion that we had at ZBA. That's why I put it in there. That was a number that was thrown out. Again, we haven't requested these plans up front for this type of special use permit. That's why it's in the conditions to complete. So it wouldn't be something that they're promising, it's in the conditions.
Let me turn to the issue of the assembly hall.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that's in the internal space.
Yeah.
What kind of condition is that? Is this a barn? What kind of internal space is this? Because we've got a drawing with 4 rectangles on the drawing that aren't named as to what they are.
Right.
And then we've got the other items that are indicated. And one's called the indoor space event. Thank you. There it is. Thank you. So what's the square footage there? And is it, I mean, it has no plumbing, I assume, no restaurant. What does it have inside that space?
Right. So you're right. It's just a barn space. And actually the applicant stated that he would only be using the rear portion. That's why I think it matches the outdoor where it'd only be for smaller gatherings. But the condition of the structure is something that the condition that was suggested by building and zoning and that I've placed in there would take care of. So any type of renovations, any type of even new structures that might be put up would have to go through the building permitting process and adhere to the commercial building code.
What kind of electrical provisions or setup is there in there right now?
I'm not aware of that information.
Is this a property sewer or is it septic?
I believe it's septic.
That's what I was figuring when it talked about porta potties.
Yeah.
The outdoor space event, which is noted as a corral, is that what it currently is right now, as a corral?
Yeah.
Okay. What are these other rectangles that aren't enumerated?
So those are the other agricultural structures that I called out and like the silos as well on there. So there's other barns. I don't know if, Kevin, if you could, I could pop up the pictures again.
In this.
I'm failing
The various structures.
failing to understand how this special use could not become anything other than the dominant use. It wouldn't be subordinate to the established use. What agricultural use is proposed to continue to be done on the property?
The principal use is the dwelling.
Okay, so it's really just the dwelling. It's nothing agricultural.
No, but it's on an agricultural zone district.
Yeah, that I understand. Do we have assembly hall defined in our code?
I believe we do.
And, what kind of uses are there in an assembly hall?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What kind of uses are there in an assembly hall? This is, my problem with this is the vagueness.
Right.
The applicant has event space, and then the staff report comes up with what I assume was discussed at the ZBA, but I don't know what an assembly hall is and
Sure.
what the size of the venue would be.
Right, so there's no size attached to the definition. Assembly hall simply is a building or part of a building whose primary use is a meeting place for any public or private groups of 10 or more persons. So that's the definition of assembly hall. That is why we have used it in the past for these exact type of uses. So in 2019, we also approved a use at 798 Wyman School Road in Caledonia, with the special use being a small rural business as an outdoor event space and assembly hall within the A1 agricultural district. So the conditions were actually less than what we see here, but similar type of use. And I understand the vagueness, but that is what every single one of the uses has essentially called out.
In regards to the number of employees other than family members, was there any indication at the ZBA what the scope of the staff was going to be?
No, and that's only in the definition of the small rural business. That's not actually like a condition that we've placed. That's just defining what the small rural business is. Essentially, for this type of event space, the worker would be just Mr. Ojeda, as he would be preparing the space, and then it's like a rental, right? So he would rent it out to somebody, and they would bring then a caterer or something to host that party there. So this is for renting out the space to be used for these types of parties, to not be confused with a private party, which he can have today.
Turning to the issue of noise monitoring, do we, somewhat familiar with this with the city of Des Plaines, do we actually have a noise monitoring meter that can be employed?
I'm not sure if the sheriff's department does. But the noise ordinance simply states that no sound amplification equipment which can be heard at a distance of greater than 500 feet of any property line of the source property between 10 and 7 Sunday through Thursday and 11 to 7 Friday and Saturday. So that's the limit that was placed. So if you can hear the sound amp system 500 feet away from that subject property,
That would be a violation.
that's a violation, yes.
Okay. I'm just looking at my notes for a minute.
Sure.
If I may, Mr. Chairman. So the 100 people estimate that came up at the ZBA, what was that based on? Or how did that number arrive?
It was just a conversation number. I think Mr. Ojeda, Miss Crum was like 100 people, and he's like, yeah, but it was more of a starting point. But we see that's the other portion that we just haven't reviewed yet, which comes after the special use is approved, would be looking at the site and how much it can accommodate for parking and then people. So in my report, I outlined the approximate space of the corral and how much potential parking space there could be, which was a lot higher than the meeting space.
I'm sorry, I missed the corral. Where was that? What's the approximate dimensions of it?
Oh, in my report?
Yeah.
It's in the advisory report. I believe Mr. Catlin handed it to you. I think it was like somewhere like 520 feet versus 24,000 square feet of parking.
Okay,
It's in my advisory report.
all right, thank you. There wasn't any indication of the neighboring property owners on the application, and whether there were any other business partners. Like number 9 doesn't have anything on it.
No, those are typically not filled out unless they're a bigger corporation. This is an individual property owner who wants to do like a home-based business almost.
That's all I have at the time.
Chairman?
Thank you. Couple of quick things, just addressing some of the things Mr. Wiltsey brought up. The outdoor event space looks like it's 4,600, a little over 4,600 square feet. Parking space available is almost 25,000 square feet. So that's, a little under 5,000 square feet for event space for the outdoor portion. I have no doubt that even though these are barns, basically at this point, that they couldn't be turned into very viable venues to host parties and events and things like that. If it wasn't possible to do that, then nobody'd be going up to McEachran Winery to sit down and relax and enjoy a glass of wine. Because you can do those things. You can renovate those buildings. And none of that bothers me because without the proper codes being met, they wouldn't get occupancy permit. I'm not concerned about that so much. The other project, I think you said it was on Stone Quarry.
Yeah.
Kind of limits for time, noise, attendance or.
There was the conditions that were placed.
Yeah, what kind of conditions were placed on that one?
The only ones that were placed were the site plan, the parking site plan, and the same ones that you see here. So pretty much the same ones, sorry.
Okay, so basically the same thing.
Yep. I'll pull up to them.
When that one was up, did we have objections from neighbors regarding noise, things like that?
It was brought up during the conversations.
When did that one get
From our
approved, remember?
2019.
Man, I don't remember that.
I have the ordinance that was signed for the other one. November 2019 was the Wyman School Road, and the Stone Quarry Road was a little bit earlier in the year. But no, there wasn't any concerns from the public. It was brought up during the committees.
But public didn't really have any.
That's right.
Thank you.
All right, Freddie was next.
Yeah, if I may ask the gentleman in Spanish, because I don't think he understood some of the questions. So if I may.
Sure. Voy a preguntar algo en español.
Hola, señor, ¿cómo está?
Bien, bien, ¿y usted?
Bien, bien, me llamo Freddy. Quiero saber, nomás que sea honestamente, ¿cuántas personas más o menos usted piensa traer a su evento?
Mire,
Please speak into the microphone.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
mire, la mera verdad, pues necesito estar seguro de no meter gente más de lo que no es el lugar, ¿verdad?
Sí, claro, claro.
Por ejemplo, yo si rentaría el corral o la galera, yo pondría un límite, ¿verdad? Cobro tanto y tantas personas, no quiero más de ciertas personas porque no me conviene tampoco que haya más de cierta cantidad para que haya menos desorden.
Ok, ¿y qué tipo de eventos quiere hacer?
Pues mire, de repente hay gente que piden para rentar para quinceañeras o bodas, bautizos, cumpleaños, pero pues ya dependiendo el reglamento que pusiera uno ahí, el límite de las personas.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Can I
I'd
translate?
like to have an opportunity to have,
I'm sure
somebody asks a question the gentleman responds for Freddie to tell us what the question was.
Yeah, so I was about.
Response was before we go on, otherwise it gets lost.
Basically, he's just saying that, obviously there's a limit of, people that are going to attend some of the events. And mainly the events are going to be weddings, maybe, other things, birthdays, things like that. And I personally don't think it's a bad thing
I'm just trying to get dialogue so I understand what the question asked is.
And I personally don't feel comfortable saying no to someone that wants to put a business like that. So.
Rodney Riley.
As with any business, and I'm not knocking anything this gentleman's trying to do, I understand that. But key for business, in my opinion, and I think we've all heard it, location, location, location. This is not a safe place to have it. I think when we're talking about the one that was passed back in 19, we're talking about a different area road-wise. I'm sure it's much safer out there where that one's at. It doesn't have the congested traffic that this one does. I drive this road every day to work in Woodstock, and I see it. Accidents. It's just, I'm all for what he's trying to do. I don't want him to spin his wheels and waste time, because even if we can meet all those requirements that we've been talking about, we still can't take the traffic and the safety issue away from it.
Okay.
That's huge.
Yep, and that has been brought, okay. That has been brought up a lot, right? The traffic and the congestion. I did want to mention that there was a traffic study done, as well as measures put in place that the data do reflect that accidents have been reduced.
Have been what?
Reduced.
Reduced.
I'm sorry. They want to come, okay.
Nope. Sherry Bertelt.
I think at this time, there seems to be a communication breakdown between what we're saying and what he's understanding. And I think someone needs to guide the gentleman a little bit in what he's trying to achieve with his business. I would probably vote no at this time. I feel that at this point in time, he's not understanding all the rules and regulations that have to be done in order to get this done. I suggest that the gentleman goes back and has someone help him to understand what the rules and regulations are, because at this point in time, this is not ready to go. I think things need to be thought through a little bit better, and somebody who doesn't have a barrier of language might be able to get the information that we need for this. So at this point in time, I would probably vote no until he understands what he wants to do.
Thank you for your comment. I do speak Spanish, and I did speak with the applicant prior to and during every single one of the meetings to just keep them up to date. So I did want to put that out there, and I understand your comment. Thank you, but I did want to mention that as well.
Thank you, Izzy. Any other questions in the boardroom?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a point of clarification too, regardless of the vote here taken tonight, this will still appear before the county board at the board meeting also, just so it has to go through multiple votes, yes, no, or maybe so. Carl Johnson, no. Jonathan Van Laar. Dave Wiltsey.
No.
Ray Larson.
No.
Steve Schabacher.
No.
Jeff Carlisle.
No.
Ryan Curry.
No.
Bill Robertson.
No.
Sherry Bartelt.
No, not at this time.
Rodney Riley.
No.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Motion fails at this time.
Item 9.3. I need a motion to move IGA, intergovernmental agreement, to provide public mass transit service to the county of Boone forward to county board for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Bill Robertson, seconded by Mr. Carlisle. Go ahead, Kevin.
So this evening before the county board, we have the Rockford Mass Transit District, RMTD, serves as our primary public transit provider for the urbanized area in the county. The county's IGA with RMTD for urban transit and fixed transit, which is provided, or the urban on-demand response is actually provided through the Boone County Council on Aging. Those are set to expire June 30th, actually. So the county has traditionally provided public mass transit services, which is the fixed route service directly through RMTD. BCCA again provides that on-demand service response, and they bid on that, and they were the only one to bid because they already have the buses. So what this IGA will do is solidify the county's relationship with RMTD, provide both fixed route service directly by RMTD and the urban demand response provided indirectly through the third-party provider, which is BCCA. The city of Belvedere is responsible for the majority of the fees associated with this, which is $30,000 for this contract year. Our portion from the county, the remaining $13,000 is picked up by an IDOT grant. So staff recommends approval of the IGA as presented.
Thank you, Kevin. Questions or comments for Kevin or on the matter in the boardroom? Roll call.
That's me.
Thank you.
Carl Johnson, yes. Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Steve Shabak.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Ryan Curry.
Yes.
Yes.
Sharon Bartel.
Yes.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 9.4, I need a motion to move proposal for 2021 annual services, Belvedere, Boone County landfill number 2 in the amount of $40,100 to be split 50-50 with the city of Belvedere forward to Belvedere, forward to the county board for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Jeff Carlisle, seconded by Bill Robertson. Kevin?
And yes, so I can take this as well. This is a annual contract that we approve with our environmental support provider, TRC, to provide environmental support analysis and reporting for the Belvedere Boone County landfill number 2 for the 2021 reporting year. This is not an increase from the previous years as well, so they were kind enough and kept the price the same. And a little bit of this is offset on the county side, at least, from that Amoresco agreement that lease option agreement, the $7,500. And then we have a landfill fund, and then the city of Belvedere picks up the other half. Down the line, and you'll see next week on finance that we're trying to be proactive and reduce our costs associated with this landfill on an annual basis. So what we are proposing is to replace some of those steel wells with PVC wells, like I've explained before, to reduce annual costs. Staff recommends approval of this proposal as written.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Carlisle?
Yeah, Kevin, what's our opportunity to adjust this contract? Is it a 30-day notice or a 60-day notice, or what's our ability to adjust?
You're just referring, I guess, what do you mean by adjust? I'm sorry.
Well, if we do some of the things we were going to do in finance and such.
Yes, so yeah, that's a good question. So this is, I believe I believe we have a 90-day period to withdraw. However, it isn't likely. So because these are done by reporting year, so this will be for the 2020 reporting year. It isn't likely that, say, if we do the PVC steel wells, we decide to go that route, the EPA would likely. The reporting year for that would be like 2022. So we would still likely have to utilize TRC services for the 2021 year for this analysis and report. So we wouldn't be, it wouldn't be likely that we would back out of the contract due to the proactive upgrades that we want to make. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Those upgrades are the PVC replaced so that we can actually get that number down. I think we talked down to maybe the 5.
Yeah, 5 to 10,000 range.
Right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And we'd still be splitting that with.
And we'd still split that with the city. Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Kevin? Roll call, please.
Carl Johnson, yes. Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Steve Shabak.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Ryan Curry.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Bartel.
Yes.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 9.5, I need a motion to move COSAP IGA intergovernmental agreement between Boone County and the city of Belvedere Amendment 4, County Board for approval. Kevin?
Need a motion first, second.
So moved. Motion by Rodney Riley, seconded by Steve Schubacher.
Okay, so this is an IGA that the county board actually approved back in February, and the city approved the IGA on March 1st. We recently received a letter from the city council from Mike Drell, their city attorney, expressing an interest for the county board to consider language to amend the IGA. However, they also stated that a side letter would be sufficient, and essentially they'd like to amend the or present a side letter or amend the IGA to stipulate that the county and city would split costs not covered under the grant 50-50. We met I met the chairman, vice chairman, state's attorney, myself, and Amanda Mell, public health administrator, met to discuss the letter and the grant, and we determined that it would be in the county's best interest to approve a side letter with some language stipulating that we would cover those overtime costs and other expenses not grant eligible. The city may request those to be reimbursed on a case-by-case basis. And so that language is outlined in the memo as a side letter instead of amending the IGA. We do not believe that there will be any overtime expense costs associated with this grant. It is highly unlikely. And those costs would have to be really approved by the chief of police and the public health administrator. She is also, Amanda is doing some research with the DOJ to see if those costs would be covered with regarding overtime. I think she's still just waiting on a response, but again, it is highly unlikely we would have those overtime expenses anyway. So we recommend approval of the language as outlined in the staff memo, and if approved, we'll bring that side letter. The state's attorney will draft a side letter for presentation or for approval. Sorry.
This is a 9-to-5 position, if I understood it correctly, is what it's meant to be.
It's a daytime job. It may not be 9 to 5, but like 8 to 4. Yes, it's intended to be working during the day, following up on cases that occurred the evenings before.
Okay. Any questions? Mr. Wiltsey?
Just with respect to the overtime issue, would we be in a position where we would receive reports if that started to occur so we had an idea what was going on?
Certainly, I mean, in Tricia could chime in, I would imagine that they would keep that line of communication open. So
Right, and they did not, we're proposing, if they want us, they don't have to accept this language, but we're proposing not only does the chief of police have to approve, but also Amanda Mill, because she's the one who's, the health department is administering this grant. So that would give us a check on the county side to control any overtime costs if there were to be.
All right, thank you.
So almost a two-step approval before any hours.
What, someone from the city and someone from the county, we thought that was fair if they were asking us to contribute to the cost.
Any other questions? Seeing none?
I think we can just do a voice vote on this, can't we? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Moving on to 9.6. What are we doing here?
what does it not say?
I need a motion to approve the
I'd say Big Thunder.
Big Thunder Park playground improvements. Motion.
I would move that we pursue option 1 under the alternatives, which is to do immediate improvements and reopen the park as soon as possible.
Okay. A second. A motion has been made by Chairman Johnson and seconded by Ray Larson to pursue immediate improvements with the goal of reopening the playground as soon as possible. This alternative would prolong the playground's useful life. However, the county would need to develop a plan for eventual replacement. Questions or comments?
Yeah, I guess if Dan and I could explain pretty good background to this. As we had discussed, we became aware of some issues, and that's why the park is closed today, just due to some overarching safety concerns. With regard to that, there are a couple of things to note. Currently, the sheriff's office, he manages the county building maintenance staff, and so they've been sort of maintaining the park, sort of at a bare minimum, to just basically maintaining the grounds. It's a fairly large property, so they mow and weed whack and things like that. As far as the actual playground equipment and those items, they're not qualified park employees to maintain that equipment. And so as the equipment begins to degrade over time, they're not able to inspect it. They're not certified yet to actually have a license to do that. Again, they're not park staff. The county isn't and has never been in a position to operate a park. We've never hired park staff. We don't have park staff currently. So again, with the safety concerns and with option one being presented, we could be in a position to make improvements. We have throughout the memo we shared in executive session, there are things that we can do, certainly. However, I will say that I'm not confident as a manager to advise the county board to open that park. I'm not qualified to make that call. I don't have the correct licensure to do that. We don't have the staff to do that. So with option one, we could certainly try to engage our community partners such as the Belvedere Park District. They have the appropriate staff to evaluate that equipment, evaluate the condition. That would come at a cost most likely, or we can hire a consultant to do it. However, I think we'd be remiss to just consider the long-term implications of it, that the county currently does not have park staff. And so do we want to be in the business of really operating a park? I think that what we proposed as alternatives, there are options in there that could give us an opportunity to work with a community partner and possibly lease that space to perhaps a Belvedere Park District who has the resources to manage that sort of a community resource and actually make it something that's remarkable and something to be proud of. Under the current management that we have, just because we don't have the expertise, it's no knock to our staff or anything like that, we just don't have the expertise to operate that park and to manage it with the quality standards and safety standards that are required today. So I just wanted to mention that, and we can stand by for more questions.
Chairman Johnson?
Sure. I talked to the sheriff about this. He has no problems maintaining the park with his staff. They've done it for years. It's been there since '93 with zero issues. I don't think there's as big an issue as we're making here. I think that we can get this park back up and running. It was donated. This land was donated to the county. I talked with staff earlier. I don't know if they've had a chance to look into the details, but as I recall, there were some issues when this property was donated to the county, that there was only certain things it could be used for. And I recall that because at one other time, this board was presented with an option to lease this park to the city of Belvedere Park District, and it was rejected 12-0 by this board because of various issues. I don't think we're in a position, I don't think we should be in a position to lease this park to the city of Belvedere for any, or the Belvedere Park District for any specific length of time, because if it is a situation where the county needs to expand that courthouse and expand those facilities, that might be a potential spot to do so also. So I think the better thing is let's get this park up and running, and if we need to hire a consultant to inspect it, I guess, and say it's okay to let kids play on it, then that's what we do.
Any other questions? Mr. Riley?
I don't want to open a Pandora's box here, but I went through this very same issue and my past employments, and parks are Pandora's box. Somebody makes an ADA complaint or something like that, and you just bought huge improvement and upgrade issues. I'm nobody's more for a park than I am, but I just, with it in the condition that it's in, I don't know if we could just make a quick fix and be fine legally and so forth. Just a thought.
Mr. Robertson?
When the insurance company inspected it, did they give us a list of specific deficiencies?
Yes, yeah, that's outlined in that report. It's in executive content. There's, I can't remember, like 15 or 16, I'm sorry, 11 deficiencies, yes, so. And I believe, so the park equipment is what, I think it's 28 years old, so typically park equipment lasts, I mean, it's definitely past its useful life. To be honest, the park equipment should be replaced. But there is an alternative you can replace components of that park equipment to prolong the life, but you're only looking probably at about another 4 to 5 years out of it. Typically, especially, parks professionals that are in this arena, I mean, they would likely, with a 28-year-old pro, they would just wipe it out and replace it all. They wouldn't really replace those components, but as a money-saving tactic, you could do that, so.
Chairman Johnson?
This is all steel structure, is it not? Yeah, it looks to me like it's all steel structure.
Coated, I think, Chairman.
Yeah, so if it were all plastic or wooden, I would say yes, it's got a very limited lifespan, but being steel, I think that I don't know, it's, maybe I'm all wrong, maybe I'm all wet, but I rode a bike around with, no helmet too, so that was a long time ago. I was pretty rebel there, but I think we can get this up and back into working order, at least for the short term for the community pretty quick.
Jonathan?
Do we have a price point on option one, pursue immediate improvements?
Yeah, it didn't answer that.
We got some initial quotes. It would probably based on replacing components that need to be replaced and then getting an appropriate fall surface down. Rough estimate would be 15,000. That's just, but again, we're not sure. I guess we don't want to make promises that if you do X, Y, Z, that automatically it's going to be good. There are, the playground safety stuff with there's a Consumer Product Safety Commission that has a handbook that's really dedicated to this stuff. And so, that's something that we struggle with as well. We can opine on it, but really this stuff is really set in stone. And when there's a public playground, they do present serious, liability potential for entities. And so that's just wanting to make sure we move forward properly, but also it is it is an amenity for that neighborhood. I know being out there are kids that play on it. We were out there actually yesterday, and 2 boys, I think they said they were 8, actually came over and said, what happened to the playground? And they actually, it was actually kind of neat because they talked about, well, can we get swings here? And they had all these things that they would like to see. So that was kind of a neat conversation, but it shows that it is an important amenity for the community and there's a lot of investment in it. So, but yeah, I think an initial estimate would probably be 15,000. That probably is the low end, I would say.
Barry Martell? Sorry.
What would it hurt to ask the park district what it would cost to rent that park to them? And on that, because we're going to be on the hook for liability if a child or somebody gets hurt there. So would it be worth our time actually to look in what it would take for the park district to come over and look at that and at least give us an idea of how much it would take to fix what is there? Or if they would like to lease it, we could lease it to them, and then the kids would still have a park and they would maintain it, it would take some of the weight off of the county.
Dan, did you want to say something to that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that it's no secret and it's public, but the park district, it's actually been something that they wanted to pursue. I think it's been in their master plan for quite some time to partner with the county to operate or manage Big Thunder Park. The last time, I believe, the last time that they formally approached the county was in 2006. The park district came to the county. There was a memo written. It came to the admin committee, and really at that time, the county just didn't have an interest, I think, in giving up or, giving up any of the rights. And so it really didn't go anywhere at the time, but it is something that we've actually heard from them. I think there's interest there. It's not us reaching out to them. I think there's been an ongoing interest from the park district on that, so.
Go ahead, Sherry.
Well, years ago, they used to have all kinds of happenings in that park, like there was an art show and all that. That has all gone away because the park has just gone kind of downhill. The little building there, that has had to have a lot of repairs and maintenance to that. I think it's time for the county to turn around and look at the park district for help in this one and see what we can do. I understand where Carl is coming from, but sometimes we have to make decisions that we don't necessarily like. And I think this is one that if the park district is interested in helping us, this is an ideal time for us to look at them and see what is going on and what can be done. $15,000 for us out of our pocket at this point in time can be a lot of money, and where is it going to come from?
Jonathan?
Do we have that $15,000 budgeted where would we take it out of?
So yeah, that's an excellent question. So any park improvements currently, I mean, those are not budgeted. The only things that they budget for are the personnel maintaining the grounds in terms of just mowing. So, I mean, any components or anything that we buy, it's not even budgeted at this time. We don't budget for parks because we're not.
So where would that money come from?
I mean, we have a general fund reserve balance or a cash balance. I mean, we could take it out of that if the county board wants to do that, but I would not recommend that, quite frankly.
Go ahead, Dan.
I was just gonna say that there's the Fund 22 is the property maintenance fund, and there's an appropriation in FY 21, to spend money on maintenance. There's not really a detail with that funding. So it's not general fund money, but that is really funding that's dedicated to doing facility improvements or property maintenance improvements.
Chairman Johnson?
The other possibility to take funding would be probably out of contingencies, depending on what that line item looks like.
Mr. Wiltsey?
We have the other problem of what would level it out. I mean, that's probably going to be in excess of $15,000. So I would be preferred to follow alternate one and also investigate with the park district and see what options we would have.
I'd honestly like to know what the contract says that the donation obligated when it was donated to the county. Dan, you know that.
It wasn't a donation. It was just land. It was deeded to the county when the county was created. It's the public square.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a property donation per se. It was just that that parcel, which Big Thunder Park, and then the courthouse parcel. Like if you look at the legals, they're very old, and it was essentially the legals talk about the public square. So it wasn't a donation I guess we're talking
that
about
makes sense.
1837, like back when that was.
Could you read us a document from then, please?
We can find it, I'm sure.
So there's no restrictive covenant that it has to go back to somebody else if it's not used for public use?
I guess. I'm not. I don't know, but to give one example, like across from the playground where the former Lincoln School once stood, that is part of the public square, and it was at some point given to the school district, and they had a school there, and now it's back in the county. But I'm not sure if as long as the county were to maintain ownership of that public square, I don't know. I mean, we'd have to.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I would be in favor of pursuing option one. So,
Right.
Mr. Carlisle?
So, what do we have on the table? We have Carl, maybe
We have a motion pursuing option one on the table and a second.
and so if we need to talk to the school, the park district, can we add that to motion, or we just cancel the other motion and then have to make another motion? I mean, I really think we should talk to
Amend the motion.
You can amend the motion if you'd like to amend that and add it to the motion.
It'd be a friendly amendment. If the movement is okay with that.
Spit on your hand.
You can.
Yeah, which is what I want to do. I'd like to make the motion to add the park district's ability to come in, at least in help, and also give us a repair estimate.
Motion has been made by Jeff Carlisle to amend the original motion of alternative one by adding the park district quote
In review
of partnership.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Bill Robertson. Any other questions?
So any discussion on the amendment?
What now?
Is there any discussion on the amendment?
And so I think we can,
Okay, then, so roll call, or you do a voice vote on
Voice
this.
vote, I think.
yeah, voice vote on the amendment.
So all in favor of the amendment to the original motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now we.
Amendment carries. Now it'd be, this wouldn't really be spending money at this point, so it could just be a voice vote. So all those in favor of the motion as amended, which is pursue option one and discuss repairs with Park District, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Could
Motion carries.
do we have that input from the park district before we have our regular full board meeting in 2 weeks?
I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, we can try. We'll get with them tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
All right, 9.7. Motion, I don't know. Need a motion to approve board member Jeff Carlisle's proposed new policy for the board to adopt an effort to address behavior and etiquette on social media platforms.
Before we get to that point, just a point of order, Mr. Chairman. I had some discussions with state's attorney and assistant state's attorney regarding this, and they had some serious concerns about this particular policy and how it relates to First Amendment rights and things of that nature. So I would say before we acted or did anything with this, I think we need to send it to them, let them review it and go through it.
Yeah.
They had some concerns about it, so.
Hope we send it to the state's attorney for review.
Second.
Motion's been made by Bill Robertson and seconded by Dave Wiltsey to send the social media policy for board members to the state's attorney for review. Roll call. Or any, all in favor?
You can do it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion carries.
9.8 raffles, we do have 3 raffles. One for Leroy Community Grange, one for Boone County Council on Aging, and another for Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association 24-6.
Move to approve the raffles.
Raffles are approved.
Second.
Seconded by Sherry Bartel. Number 10, intergovernmental reports, updates, landfill.
Nothing further on the landfill.
Excellent.
Vote.
You need a voice vote on that raffle?
I don't think we typically vote on.
Yeah, we
raffles.
don't.
All right.
No.
No, they just need to be signed, so they're there for if anybody has any
You
questions.
didn't need a motion.
No, we didn't need a motion.
I just went with yours, just
Thank
I
you.
thought it sounded good.
I thought with last raffles that came up that we voted on.
All right, section 11, reimbursement discussion. Who wants to take this one?
Julie and I are going to take it together. I think Julie's going to do a bulk of the discussion, but I just want to make sure that people are clear. There's two different processes here. There's reapportionment, and then there's the precinct division discussion. And I think sometimes those two get conflated. So reapportionment is based on the census data that we're waiting for from the federal government. And those are, Julie kind of did a nice job outlining in her board report as to the determinations you have to make, such as how many districts, if the chairman's elected at large, I guess change in pay, those type of decisions. And usually the time frame for that is the census data is due from the federal government by April 1st. And so then the county board typically goes into discussions regarding apportionment immediately following that. And it could be adopted in May, June, but the very last time you can do it is in your July meeting. And then, again, so that process is going on. The precinct statute talks about the June meeting. It actually can be adjourned from the June meeting and decided in July, if that motion continues over. So it's not necessarily, they're kind of done in conjunction in the sense that they're two pieces of the puzzle because the precincts have to be within certain, or the reapportionment says that precincts cannot be divided. So that's why that's important.
Right. And basically with this statute that has passed both the House and the Senate in our legislature, we're just waiting for the government to sign, giving the county that extended date, which would be going into December 31st. And again, the reapportionment discussion is going to be, that does not include this yet. So there's things that you need to be discussing and determining aside from that, okay? So then there is room in the statute, the older statute, and we did bring up previously that we thought that there was going to be some legislation that would change the law about sizes. Friday afternoon at my zone meeting, we had a gentleman who was drafting a lot of the language in this omnibus bill that passed where it was supposed to be in there. And by Monday morning, I spent way too much time over the weekend watching and waiting and watching and waiting. They finally dropped the bill overnight, Sunday night. Monday morning, I spoke with the same gentleman. They had taken that language out. So they did not change it. There is room, however, in the statute from 40 years ago that does allow you to change those after you have done your new district mapping. That's part of the options that we'll go over with precinct size. So at this point, what are you wanting to go ahead and discuss those things that you're needing to do and then discuss precinct sizes right afterwards this evening? Or I guess what direction would you like to take this in? Do you want me to go ahead and discuss what your options are when it comes to precinct sizes? Or do you want to just go ahead and discuss the reapportionment of this and then discuss the precinct sizes once after a map has been created? Mr. Carlo?
Good, Jeff.
So I'm thinking chicken and the egg here in a moment. What comes first? Precincts can't be manipulated after a district has been, only can be manipulated when a district has been finalized. Yes or no?
Well, so the precincts could be divided in June based on the current information we have. They also, and that June date can be continued to July if we adjourn that matter. The other part of the statute gives you at the decentennial, and I can read the language, that basically, sorry, let me pull up the statute here. It provides that In order to situate each precinct within a single district or ward, the county board shall change the borders or boundaries of election precincts after each decennial census as soon as practicable following the completion of the congressional and legislative redistricting. So there's 2 times that you can do the precinct. You can do it in June into July, or after that, basically your districts are drawn from the reapportionment.
And the reapportionment is not just at the county level, it's also the legislative and state redistricting as well.
And it's my understanding that in the same session, there's a new map for state legislative districts. And I'm not sure yet if the governor has signed that as well. But I think that the thought is the governor would sign the couple bills that came out at the end of the session sooner rather than later. Does that help answer your question?
A little bit of the chicken and the egg, yeah.
Because reapportionment can be, or I'm sorry, precinct division can be done or shall be done on the June following a November general election. So that's about every 2 years. Whereas the census, the reapportionment is only done every 10 years. So there's a special provision in the precinct statute when it comes to this particular year that you're doing the precinct division because of the reapportionment decennial data. Does that help?
Mr. Wiltsey?
It seems to me that if we started messing with precincts before the legislative and congressional maps are done, we're gonna have to do it all over again. I'd really rather see the legislative districts drawn and then revisit the issue of the precincts.
Right. Well, and that's part of what I tried to express in the options that I gave you for what you can do within the statute. So option A, of course, you could do that June and carry it over into July if need to be. We are going to need to work with Tammy Cox of GIS. There's no way around that. She'll be back in on Monday, I believe. She's been on vacation. The election authority, so part of what also plays into this is anytime that we've made changes to a precinct or to, if it's just changing the location within that precinct, we have to notify all the registered voters within that area with a new election voter registration card. This year, to add another layer, is also considered what we call the purge. The purge is where every 2 years, we have to send out a new voter registration card to every person within the county who is registered to vote. And when you do that, that also then, it's not forwardable. We get a lot of feedback. We usually get 5 to 10% back that's telling us where somebody has moved without doing a change of address, where we're not notified electronically. Maybe somebody has passed away that we were not informed about. So we find a lot of things that change. And then we also take a look at people who have not voted in any election for the last 2 presidential elections since the presidential election of 2016. Those people can also be inactivated and removed from the voter registration rolls. If we go ahead and change these at this point in time, we do all the coding. Actually, our voter registration company will do the coding. I'm still waiting for them to let me know exactly how much that's going to cost for it to do that. So we would do the coding, send out the new voter registration card. And then later in the year, after we get the maps back for the new maps for the legislative lines, and then you make your maps for the county board districts, if there's any changes, then we're going to recode those people, take a look at those precincts and see how we need to change them from there. And then we send out another voter registration card. My concern with that is that there's going to be a lot of cards going out there for residents, and they're going to open these, and what are they going to do? They're going to say, why did I get 3 and why are they all different? Which one is supposed to be that? There's going to be a lot more voter registration confusion for our voters, okay? there's already voter registration confusion, and that's what I'm hoping to alleviate. Not saying that you shouldn't do this. I'm just saying that consider some of the things that are going to be impacted by that. We did hear from, for this new funding that has been released, UCCI did state that they thought that the new equipment would be covered under this because elections are considered vital infrastructure. So that alleviates a little bit of that cost. There's still other costs, like I said, with sending out the voter registration and the coding and the licensing, more election judges, things like that. I don't want to it's not about cost, but I'm just letting you know that that is something that will be impacted by that. Finding a suitable polling location, I did put that on here. I'm not quite as concerned about that because, like I said, in this this omnibus bill that passed, they're making that an election holiday and schools will be closed. So the premise behind that is so that we can use schools for a polling location. So that at least would be helpful. And then, of course, we're going to have to find at least 3 election judges that we can use to staff those locations. So depending on how many precincts that you decide to change, that's going to be an issue, as I already have issues with finding election judges. The option B that I put on there, that was basically making changes once, because you can within the statute, once the county reapportionment has been completed. Then that way we do all the coding at one time. We already have the legislative. I can go ahead and send out the purge. I may still have to change slightly, but at least it won't be quite as much as if we were going to do it now. And if you wait until that time, you may actually have some precincts that will be manipulated and changed that will maybe that we won't have to do so many multiple changes. Timing, it still takes place prior to the June primary of next year. I do not advise that we wait until June of next year because that's when we're having the primary and precinct committee people, that's their election. So you can't have somebody who's running in an election and then all of a sudden you change their precinct. So I don't recommend waiting until that point in time. Whatever you decide, I will implement. However you want to do this. It does offer you a little bit more time so that you're not hastily making a decision or changing things, that you've got a little bit more time to work with Tammy and GIS. And it should be determined by, everything should be completed no later than January 13th because that's when petitions can start to be circulated and people need to know what districts they're going to be in, whether you're running for county board or running for a precinct committee person. Potential legislation at the veto session could change things as well. I hate saying that because they keep telling us they're going to change it and then it hasn't changed.
I could just jump on in a couple points there. So one of the other changes in the omnibus bill related to reapportionment is that it makes clear that you can use the ACS data to do your reapportionment instead of just waiting on the federal census data. So that can be a decision that the county board can make as well, because that data, I believe, is available now. I had spoke to Tammy prior to her going on vacation or taking some time off, and she wasn't as familiar with that data, but was going to familiarize herself with that to perhaps draw some maps from that. So that can be a consideration that the board could use to kind of speed up the process so that we don't maybe have to wait till September to get the federal data. And I can't speak to you, and maybe Tammy could advise better when she looks into it, what are the differences between the two and maybe what you should consider when making that determination. But at least statutorily now, if that law is signed, we can actually use that and rely on that. Because I think in my first memo in April, we weren't sure what data we could rely on. So that was one point. The other point too is that the next election is in June of 2022. So if we make a determination in June, July, it's not going to affect what those vote, there's not an election that's going to be affected between now and then. So if you're taking a little bit more time, as long as you're doing it within the statute to make sure that you're doing the reapportionment in time and that you then, do the precincts, that it shouldn't affect that election. And obviously, the sooner you do it, the more time people have to make sure that they know, their precinct, where they're voting, et cetera, and Julie can get that information out.
Any questions in the boardroom? Sherry Bartel.
I think because this is such a in-depth situation that we are going into, I would like to suggest that we have a special meeting to go over this, because we're already at 9:30 at night. I think we should have a special meeting at maybe at least 1 or 2 to get this straightened out. And you said the lady that we really have to work with is on vacation or on leave.
She'll be back.
Make a suggestion for a special meeting to meet with her. It can be open to the public. And that way we can sit down and discuss this instead of starting at 9:30 at night and getting out of here at 10 after 11 like we did the last time. I don't know if that's, I think that would be the easiest thing, because a lot of people work, a lot of people do this, and it's a suggestion.
Thank you, Sherry. Go ahead, Chairman.
I don't think it's a bad idea to have a special meeting to go over this. I think we do need to wait until we get more information from the state, whether it's their district lines or however they're going to draw that, because I don't want to see us sending cards out to people and then having to resend cards out to people, because I think it's just going to be a complete disaster. And there's a lot of people in the public that think we're morons already. So there's no sense in trying to reinforce that to them. So I think we need to step back a little bit. Get that information.
I'm bringing my flask.
There you go. But let's, any idea when we might get that information from the state, their district lines and whatnot?
They've drafted the map, and I think they're just waiting on the governor to sign off on it. So typically they have 60 days from the time that the legislation drops, but Governor Pritzker, I don't believe, has been waiting that long on these cases. So
Possibly August, we could have.
I think everyone's hopeful that it'll be
July
soon.
But
Obviously, I can't speak for that, but
maybe if we probably plan something July, August, to have a special meeting or two where we'll have plenty of information, and that'll give you guys time to put together a whole.
And I don't know if I'd wait that long, to be honest. I think that we can monitor when the bills are being signed, and I'd rather start the process sooner rather than later, if the board is amenable to that.
Well, and again, there's decisions you have to make that won't be impacted by your map. Your mapping is going to be impacted, I'm sure, or your thoughts about it about what the state maps are. But you have decisions that you need to make separate from those things that still need to be determined too. So that you could go ahead and do at some point.
Dave Wiltsey.
I just noted there happens to be 5 Thursdays in July. As a fallback, if we hold that open.
Special meetings can be anytime.
But I agree completely, a special meeting or 2 would be appropriate.
Sherry?
I'm just thinking that Julie and Tricia will probably know very soon when the governor signs this. I think once we find out when that is signed, we have to have at least 1 meeting or 2 meetings or whatever immediately and make decisions we can make without certain parts of it. I think we need to go ahead and do something here, actually in the month of June here yet, to get this ball rolling, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of heated disagreements or whatever going on in this. I would just suggest we have at least 1 meeting, maybe 2 meetings in June, and the same thing in July. It's not bad coming in here into air conditioning, so.
What we could do, if the board, again, is agreeable to this, we could put it on as an agenda item next Thursday to give you an update of what we learned between now and next Thursday. We'll also speak with Tammy Cox, find out from her what she thinks, her timeline for drawing maps. And we might be in a better position even just a week from now. And then maybe in the meantime, admin can get together some maybe potential special meeting dates so that everyone can decide what would be workable for them. That works.
One more, Mr. Riley.
I'm just gonna ask, just obviously keep us posted on how we're doing, because you're saying June and July, we have to have some decisions made, as long as we know where we're at, so we don't all of a sudden, well, we got 3 days to decide this. I think that's, you know where I'm coming from.
No, we don't want to have, put you in that situation either.
And you guys don't want to.
No.
But
again, the reapportionment.
Any kind of extension if we don't get the information as soon as you think, or?
Well, I think that it's my understanding that the governor, you can't say for sure he's going to sign these bills, but if he signs the bill, you'll have until December 31st to do the reapportionment. But I think the thought I'm getting from everybody, and again, kind of our thought too, is that you don't want to maybe wait until December 31st. That as soon as you have the data available to you to make the determination, you should start making those decisions.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Guidance? It'll end. Thank you very much, Libby, for all of your work. Item 11.2 correspondence. There's a couple tidbits in there. Kevin, do you want to?
Yeah, just really quick, just because a comment reached out and they know that they still have customers and nonprofits out there that may need help, and they have a couple of grant programs, one for residents and one for nonprofits. So if you know anyone in need, or if the public's listening, on correspondence, you can check those out for assistance.
Thank you, Kevin. 11.3 UCCI. Anything yet? Nothing. Okay. 11.4 board member comments.
I got one.
Go ahead, Jeff.
The data that I put together is accumulation of information. Also, Ms. Bartel had made a request to Amanda Meal on IDPH's jurisdiction on the EMS groups, and they do have jurisdiction on EMS groups. We're listening to the phone call, and I wanted to put it up on give everybody an informational sheet. This is what was currently being talked about, what was being said on the boards. I put it in a PowerPoint so everybody can get a bird's eye view on it, because I get lost in some of this stuff too. So if you just hit the Capron thing real quick, and I wanted everybody to get an idea. We are in Region 1, and in the magenta color, that's Region 1. Region 1 consists of all these health groups, which I didn't know until I started looking this up myself. And then the emergency medical services are governed by the ICLS 50/30.20. The regional director is Lynn. The state rep is Ashley. And when complaints are filed, they have to go to Don Crawford at Mercy Health EMS coordinator. And Dr. Jay McNeil is the physician in charge for this group too. Those are the groups that if you've got complaints, this is where you go. This is where you have to do that. They are the overseeing governing programs, so all EMS programs. It's Region 1. The county board really doesn't have any jurisdictions over that governing body at all. The county just works with these EMS teams and works with the IDPH region directors. I got the same problem, Ryan. Anything outside of working with Mercy Health is not approved unless one has or is currently working with the program. This is the information we're getting from IDPH. And so we're trying to disclose any information that we have seen, we have heard to them. So that's what we're trying to do. And so if you go up to the next slides, they wanted to know what our concerns were. These are the concerns that have been posted and talked about at the board. And so I wanted to put them on a piece of paper so we all can take a look at them. And if you roll it up to the next one, they asked about the county, what county parts they were part of. And this is a slide that we can display information and what was talked about in our meetings here. You keep rolling up. And current facility mentioned with mold, these are the things that were talked about here. And these are the bits of information. I just wanted to give you guys this information so you have it. And it's in one document, because you get pieces here, you get pieces there. It was just all there for everybody to take a look at.
Sherry Bartel.
Along with this, conversation that we had on Tuesday morning with these ladies from the state and with Amanda, since Capron is running out of money, I will be going to their meeting tomorrow night at 5:00. They want to put a referendum out for more money. They've already mismanaged so much. So they plan on doing that, I believe, for this coming
Sure.
November.
But I guess I'm concerned. Capron Rescue, we're slamming Capron Rescue here. They're their own taxing body, and that we have zero control over.
Yeah.
So we're not ridiculing the Historical Society, Conservation District, the Park District, the school board, or anybody else's budget and going through them and telling them whether or not they've mismanaged money or how they've mismanaged money or whatever. I'm concerned that we're concerning ourselves in a public meeting with another taxing body's budget and how they manage their funds. Certainly they could do the same to us as a county, but it's not our position to do so. They are their own taxing body. If they want to go for referendum, they have every right to do that. And as a body, we cannot support or publicly support or publicly go against whatever they want to do. As individuals, we can, but as a public body, we can't. So if we're debating this in this scenario, I just think it's a bad look for the county, a real bad look. And I don't think we have any jurisdiction on that.
Sherry?
My point is this, we have 1, 2, 3, and with Sherry, it'd be 4 members, at least up in that area. And some of them are getting taxed double. And I have gotten calls on this. We have property up there and we're getting double taxed. I would say you're half right and you're half wrong. For the simple reason, this involves the taxpayers of Boone County. And I think they deserve to know the information that is coming out from Capron. I'm not knocking them. I'm not doing anything else to them. I just think the people in that area need to know what is going on at this point in time so they can prepare themselves for whatever is going to happen. If you want to look at everything that they've mismanaged it, yeah, they have. But that's up to the taxpayers up in that area to have the knowledge to know what to do or what not to do. And I'm up there, I'm a county board member, yes. I'm also up there because I'm paying double taxes and I want to know where my money went and why. So I've got a double standard of sitting there and listening to these people. And I'm not happy with them and I'm not happy with what they did with their money either.
Go ahead, Dave.
Just briefly, the reality is when the referendum passed in North Boone 3 to become the primary responder to 911, and the appellate court affirmed that decision of dismissal by the Boone County judge on a 3-0 vote. Capron then, as a rescue district and not as a fire department, because you've got 2 different entities there, it's just not viable for them anymore. And they will have to turn to their taxpayers and they will have to get a referendum, or I think they're probably going to have to fold and withdraw service and stop. And so I understand exactly what the chairman's saying. It's really their problem of the voters in that district and how they're going to operate. But the handwriting was on the wall when North Boone became the primary 911 responder, and ambulance reimbursement procedures and so forth are not as lucrative as they used to be. And that's part of the thing that's hitting Capron. I mean, if you're going to have 24/7 ambulance service, staffing costs are huge.
Mr. Carlisle?
Yeah, I agree. And what the IDPH said, they're not interested in the finances of all that, but they do need to know are you running two people? Are you ALS certified? Are you BLS certified? Do you have the ambulances? Do you have the staff? If you don't, they have to report that. And that's what IDPH is very interested in.
And
Go ahead, Sherry.
we gave them what information we had and what the state had, and they are not matching at all.
Well, it's up to them to, it will be up to them.
Yeah, it'll be up to state now to check them out.
Any other comments in the boardroom? Go ahead, Julie.
I'm sorry, I'm not giving an opinion, but I just want to state a fact that a referendum, there's no November election, so a referendum won't even go on to an election until next June 28th. It's primary.
Oh, yeah.
So just wanted to throw that into the mix just to make sure there's correct information out there.
Thank you.
Wow.
Point.
Anyone else? All right, moving right along quickly. Or not. Huh? Yeah, just need one last motion to adjourn the meeting.
Adjourn.
Motion's been made by
Second.
Jonathan Van Laar, seconded by Dave Wiltsey. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.